Hi, and welcome to my first video. This is from a user known as the No Exit Room, and the story is called My Last Shift Before Disinsection. I never thought a hospital could be so frightening until it became empty. It happened a few years ago, right before New Year's. I was on duty in a department that was about to be closed for a 2-week disinsection. No new patients. The serious cases were transferred to other hospitals. The mild ones discharged home. It seemed like it would be the calmest shift of my life. I felt relieved. No rush with heart attacks, no drunken knife wounds. I was left completely alone in the department. Even the nurse had asked to go home. There was no one to bandage, no prescriptions to write. The paperwork was finished. I could sit in the break room, watch YouTube, sip tea. And at first, that's exactly how it was. But toward the evening, something changed. Something crept into the room through the door. It was silence. I didn't notice it at once. It became tangible when darkness fell. Not just the usual hospital night silence. Something else. An absence of sounds I had long accepted as background. Footsteps in the corridor, the creak of a mattress, a phone conversation at the reception desk, the snoring of patients. I was used to it. All those evenings someone walked, smoked, laughed. I walked up to the window. The yard outside was empty. An eerily unfamiliar sight. No wounded soldiers laughing while leaning on the railing with cigarettes. No patients talking to family. No ambulances. No stretchers rolling by. Not even the usual line at the pharmacy kiosk. All of it gone. There was only nothing. I stepped out into the corridor. It was empty. The fluorescent light seemed brighter and colder than usual. I kept turning on lights along the way, almost automatically, but it didn't help. The buzzing of the lights echoed the buzzing in my head. I couldn't tell which one was louder. And in that hum, I suddenly caught a rhythm. A steady thump-thump, almost like a heartbeat. I tried to convince myself it was just the old wiring, just the tubes flickering, but I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere deeper, beyond the end of the dark corridor, there was someone else. I slowly walked through the hallway, switching on lights section by section. The silence didn't fade. It felt like it was following me. Light should have brought calm. Instead, each overhead lamp that blinked on only highlighted the emptiness around me. I could hear the light switches clicking. My footsteps echoed dully off the walls. I passed an empty room, beds made up neatly, like for the dead. The floor was shining, sterile. Furniture frozen in place. Even the blinds didn't move. It didn't look abandoned. It looked frozen. At the turn in the corridor, I stopped, as if something told me to. Just a feeling. I glanced out the window. It faced another building, directly across. And there, on the 3rd floor, stood a silhouette. A dark figure, perfectly still, just standing in the light. A long coat, arms at the side, no movement, but I knew immediately he was looking at me. I couldn't see a face, couldn't tell the gender, but something in the posture was wrong. Too straight, too motionless, like a figure from an old photograph, or a body on the coroner's table. I took a step back, blinked. When I looked again, the window was empty, but the light in that window was still on. I entered the treatment room and disassembled an old metal IV stand. The bottom part was heavy enough and fit comfortably in my hand. I wouldn't say I was scared, but someone really could have slipped into the hospital unnoticed. I stepped out of the department. The floor had several elevators. The lift operator, who sometimes helped us chase out vagrants, wasn't there. Where the hell did he go? I thought. Probably holed up in his little room in the basement. I decided to take the stairs. Somehow, it felt safer. The classroom I'd seen from the window was in another building, the old training wing. The doors were shut. I was about to knock, though I had no idea for whom. And then, there was a thud behind the door. I froze, listened. Nothing. Then, again. A dull, heavy knock, as if something scraped against the floor or hit a wall. Where the hell is security? I gripped the metal pole from the IV stand tighter. With my other hand, I grabbed the door handle. I swung the door open, and I saw it. In the middle of the classroom stood an anatomical skeleton, A familiar plastic figure on a metal stand with wheels. It was moving, slowly rolling from one side of the room to the other. A draft. Apparently someone had forgotten to close the gate after airing out the room. Maybe the cleaning lady. The wind drifted freely between the buildings, pushing the skeleton gently, soundless at first, until it bumped softly into the furniture. That's what I saw in the window. That's what had been looking at me. I walked over and closed the gate, left the skeleton where it was, then scanned the classroom once more, just to make sure there was nothing else. I left the building and entered the lobby on the first floor. Spacious, cold, tiled in grey ceramic. The heavy wooden doors looked monumental and motionless. Some of the ceiling lights flickered, not all at once, but one at a time, unnaturally. One blinked like it couldn't decide whether to light up or go dark. Another stayed on, but buzzed faintly. The hum of the lamps echoed in my skull. I couldn't tell which hum came first. I walked past an old health information board. The flyers were yellowed, a few had fallen off. One vaccination poster had only a corner left, the rest had been neatly torn away. Next to it, a large mirror with a crack. I saw myself reflected, but not quite right. Warped, or was it just the light? The hallway stretched on, like chewing gum in a dream. The walls were clean, sterile, too sterile. No coats on the hooks, no trash, not even dust. Empty. No one. No doctors, no patients, no security, not even the woman at the front desk. The one who always sat with a thermos and a little cross on her neck. Her chair was empty, and yet the thermos was there. The cup beside it, empty, like she'd just stepped away, just now. I started to feel uneasy. Where did everyone go? I kept walking. The tile floor echoed under each step. Sometimes it sounded like the echo doubled back, or wasn't quite in sync. One step, two shadows. One sound, three echoes. I glanced at the ER doors, behind the frosted glass. Darkness. But I had the distinct sense someone had just walked out. The air still held a presence. Cold. Still. Too still. I touched the handle. It was warm. I climbed the stairs back to my department. The moment I opened the door, I was hit by a stench. It hadn't been there when I left, but now it was. Heavy, sharp, rotting, like something bad had been soaked in the dark for too long. I passed the break room, heading deeper into the department. Step by step, the smell grew stronger. It trailed along the hallway like a stain. I reached the last room, stopped, felt my heart pick up its pace. The lights were off, curtain drawn, absolute silence. I reached for the switch. The light snapped on, and I saw him. A homeless man sitting on the bed, worn coat, bare feet, filthy, sitting quietly, staring straight at me. I froze for several seconds. We just stared at each other. "What are you doing here?" I finally asked. He said nothing. "There's no intake tonight. The department is closed. We're being fumigated." Still nothing. No movement. I leaned the metal pole against the wall, took a pair of rubber gloves out my pocket, pulled them on, slowly walked over, took him by the collar of his coat. He didn't resist, not at first. Only when I led him toward the exit did he start yelling, cursing, struggling, but it was too late. We made it through the hallway down the stairs. In the lobby, I was met by the receptionist and the guard. Both stared at us in disbelief. "Where the hell were you?" I asked. "You were supposed to be watching the entrance." "I was in the bathroom," the woman said, and she nodded at the guard. "I was smoking," he mumbled. "Call the police," I said. "This man broke into my department. Let them take him. He could have been hiding there all day." They took him away. It seemed like everything was over. But when I came back, into the silence, into the cold, back into the department without him, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was just an ordinary night, an ordinary instant, and still, while I was walking those empty hospital corridors, it felt like I was no longer fully here, like someone had been watching me from the outside, and I had been left behind, inside a space that no longer belonged to me. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and as it says, All stories read in this video will be linked in the description.